Before we start, I need to address something. According to my analytics, a disturbing number of you are repeatedly watching me spiral into Fallout-induced frustration, and you are still not subscribed, which means one of two things. Either you genuinely enjoy listening to my thoughts and opinions, or you are hate watching the show through me like I'm some kind of emotional radiation sponge. Either way, if you keep coming back, hit subscribe, it helps the channel, and helps me justify yelling about fictional governments. Alright, episodes 3 and 4. These episodes don't just misunderstand Fallout lore, they misunderstand why Fallout works as a universe. And the worst part? They do it with the confidence of someone who skimmed the New Vegas wiki at 2 AM and thought, yeah, I get it. Romans, but evil. Episode 3 opens with Thaddeus running a child sweatshop to get caps from bottles in the Sunset Sarsaparilla factory in Fallout New Vegas. But as we see later on, the surroundings look nothing like that of the game, so I'll just assume it's another one and they aren't in the Mojave. And the show has an issue with doing this because they do it repeatedly, where they make a location that is one-to-one with a location from the game and then just plop it in the middle of nowhere. It's very odd. The Legion in this show is not just inaccurate, it is fundamentally misunderstood. They suddenly all use guns, they torture slaves randomly, they execute obedient slaves for returning, they introduce Prima Noctis like it's a Game of Thrones fanfic. The Legion wasn't cartoonishly evil, they were calculated evil. There is a difference. Decimatio, the process of executing every 10th soldier in a Roman legion as a form of collective punishment, tribes slaughtered to show opposing tribes what happens when you defy the Legion, and crucifixion to spread fear and obedience to the Legion's enemies. These are just a few examples of the meaningful brutality that Caesar utilized to benefit his empire. What we see in the show is just brutality for the sake of it. Yet another victim to the show's bastardization of the franchise. So, they execute the slave for returning to the Legion instead of running away. Why? This is quite possibly the most retarded thing we've seen in the show so far. For one, the slaves didn't have collars as mentioned in my last video, and their legionary was killed, I guess, devoured whole by the rad scorpion, since we didn't see a corpse. And the recompense for this blind obedience to the Legion is execution. The Legion survives on obedience and fear-based loyalty. Killing someone for doing exactly what you indoctrinated them to do is narratively brain dead. That isn't brutality, it's bad management.
Hi, sir.
How dare you address the great Caesar?
Caesar? Do you mean Caesar? I believe Caesars were German and you guys have more of a Roman theme, so I think it's Caesar.
So, Lucy correcting the Legion's pronunciation is one of those scenes where the writers clearly thought they were flexing historical knowledge and accidentally revealed that they Googled Latin 5 minutes before writing the script. She tells this new Caesar, who, first of all, isn't the Legate or Vulpes or Lucius or anyone from the Legion in the game, that it's pronounced Caesar and not Caesar in Roman society / Latin. This is just blanketly wrong. In Latin, Julius Caesar is pronounced Julius Caesar. And the funniest part is that the German word Kaiser, meaning emperor, is derived from the Latin word of Kaiser, or Caesar as she pronounces it. It is true that the Americanized pronunciation of Kaiser is Caesar. Lucy specifically frames it as it's pronounced Caesar in Latin. So the showrunners are showing off their sheer stupidity once again. Also, no leader of the Legion would put up with this disrespect. She would be executed instantly, like how if you upset Caesar in-game, all the Praetorians attack you, not crucified.
This is the one. You are
Sir,
wise
please.
indeed, sir.
I see that this is a work camp, and if I may, I'm a very...
We're negotiating the rights to your Prima Noctis.
Prima Noctis? Okay.
When has Prima Noctis ever been a thing for the Legion? And this practice has literally been debunked by historians who widely agree it's a myth.
And you should know that I am not even a virgin. And that's not including all of the cousin stuff I did, which is at least a page or two on my resume. So, looks like we're out of options. If you don't mind me saying, it seems like you guys might have lost your way out here.
So the legionaries are absconded at the fact that Lucy is not a virgin. Where has this ever been a thing? Sexual morality is not exactly something the Legion holds sacred. Legate Lanius literally has a bunch of sex slaves in the game. The Legion is at war with the Khans, a literal small drug ring, the NCR, which is non-existent in the show, and the massive new and improved Brotherhood, which would absolutely crush the Legion in the show. The two splinters of the Legion that spanned all across 4 states are having a civil war over a small hill 10 feet away from each other, and Caesar's corpse is just on top of the hill that he supposedly just dropped dead on conveniently with the name of his successor in his pocket. Are you serious? And both sides just, what? Immediately start fighting each other and prevented the other from collecting the note? What is this child level writing? Also, forgot to say this earlier, they chose the Home Alone manlet to be the legate. This is even more outrageous as later in the season, we see a giant legionary that could have totally been a more fitting legate, but instead they choose a small guy. Not to mention that he takes off his helmet almost instantly. I won't even get into the fact that the armor he's wearing was specifically made for Lanius and not just every legate ever.
What do you know about Robert House?
All I heard is that he's building some kind of weapon system in Vegas. Our intel thinks that's connected to what you heard Barb talking about.
Your intel?
Some blueprints and a bunch of phone records. What else am I supposed to call that?
Intel, I guess. Well, do you know what your boss wants me to do to him?
I don't know.
Look, I want to help. I'll do whatever I can. But there's got to be another way.
Look where we are, Code. Half the guys in here have killed people. Maybe not the right ones. Robert House is just one person.
Blatant communist slop, dude. Better to kill the capitalist pig CEO than kill enemy Chinese in the defense of your country. Yes, House is waiting in the bathroom because he stalked Cooper and just knew at some point at this event he'd go to take a piss. Amazing writing. So the Brotherhood elder spits some religious speech, even though the Brotherhood has never been religious, and the comically fat Mongol woman walks out.
I told you. I don't go in for the religious stuff. Give the Cold Fusion relic to the Commonwealth.
Maximus, the comically stupid main Brotherhood character, suggests just killing the apparently all-powerful Commonwealth Brotherhood's envoy, and the old guy crashes out. Apparently the Commonwealth is familiar with clerics and have a small amount as well. Where? They are established to not be scribes and are their own separate thing that preaches the religious stuff. This is never present in the other chapters ever, and they're not in Fallout 4 to my knowledge either. It really sounds like the showrunners saw Warhammer 40k and were just like, yo, let's make the Brotherhood the Imperium. And everyone like celebrated and was like, oh shit, that's a great idea, Tim. It's reinforced even more that the Brotherhood has dominance over the wasteland from the East Coast to the West Coast.
We are the last bastion of order in this country. We are a bulwark against chaos.
Do they have a civilian backing? Nope. But who cares? It's not like that's the main argument for why the Legion would fall or anything. Guys, look, they have cool airships and power armor.
You know, this isn't the first time that the Brotherhood has been on the verge of civil war.
I assume he's talking about the Outcasts in Fallout 3, because when has that ever happened in any of the classic games?
Well, it looks like we got ourselves a civil war.
Civil War, huh? Good news is nobody has to walk to get to the front lines. The ghoul just fast travels to Camp Golf, I guess. And Victor is randomly there because why not? And the ghoul knows who it is. The retarded theory that the ghoul is the courier becomes more likely by the day.
Where's Robert House?
He's gone. He had all the money in the world, but all he really wanted was to live forever. Life just ain't fair, I guess.
Wow. What a terrible character assassination. The man who wanted to save humanity from nuclear annihilation with his nuclear defense system planned to revitalize America and aspired to put humanity on Mars is reduced to the evil bad guy who wanted to live forever. What's even funnier is that I saw tourists acting like this is an amazing depiction of House from the game. There's plenty to critique about House as a man and about how he is a kind of an asshole or self-righteous, but to dumb it down to just generic evil bad guy is a total disservice to the source material. Victor mentions some rangers in the hills, so the ghoul goes to investigate. We switch back to Maximus and he's with Xander, the Indian guy. They joyride in a vertibird and the thing is shaking like crazy. Seriously, it looks like this thing is about ready to explode. Xander speaks like he's from our time. His lines are not reminiscent of a Fallout character at all, even compared to the other characters in the show.
Hey, Maximus, can we just be hard dick for a second? Oh, yeah. Unless you guy Quintus gives me that relic, you and me are going to be in the front line shooting at each other soon. And I know you're very good, but trust me, you don't want that heat.
But he claims that the Commonwealth Brotherhood is really up against it back home.
I'll be honest with you, man. We are really up against it back home. Without that relic you found, we risk losing the Commonwealth.
By who? The Institute is destroyed, the railroad is destroyed, and the Minutemen are a bunch of farmers. Are they up against it with the Gunners? Spitting more in the face of West Coast fans.
And if the Commonwealth falls, civilization won't last much longer.
What do you mean won't last? I mean, look at it out here.
It can get worse. Trust me.
The West Coast was 1,000 times more civilized than the East, and now Bethesda comes in, destroys everything, and is going, "My East Coast, so civilized." Give me a break, dude. So this random soldier said before Shady Sands got nuked, they had a battalion out east. They are near Camp Gulf in the Mojave. They had a battalion across the Colorado and Legion occupied territory. What would make this woman believe they are even still alive if they did have a battalion in Legion occupied territory? The ghoul also confirms the nuking of Shady Sands was 20 years ago and not the Todd Howard explanation about it being years after 2277.
Shady Sands. You do know that was over 20 years ago, right?
The 3 NCR soldiers also happened to just be carrying anti-fertilization medicine despite none of them being ghouls. And to beat the nail in even harder for the coping few, the ghoul says,
Ain't nobody coming. 'Cause there ain't nobody left.
in regards to the NCR in California. Apparently the anti-fertilization medicine is so valuable that the ghoul doesn't even care if he leaves behind the bottle of it.
Little piece of advice has helped me sleep at night over the years. When something's dead, it's usually because it deserved to die.
Another spit in the face of the West Coast fans. Not to mention how absurd that sentence is. You know how many undeserving people die every year? They try to make the ghoul sound so wise, yet make him say the dumbest lines in existence that make him out to be a 14-year-old that discovered nihilism 5 minutes ago. Xander and Maximus raid the Sunset Sarsaparilla factory that Thaddeus is running his child sweatshop out of. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but apparently the Brotherhood has their vertibirds equipped with radar that detects machinery and technology now. They fight through some reprogrammed Securitrons that have the Mark II upgrade. Terrible fight scene like always. Looks straight out of a fan-made comedic parody. And Securitrons are powered by Fallout 4 fusion cores now. back to the Legion. The ghoul walks in, disrespects the Legion. The legate says they can crucify him until he spills the information he's levying above their head. And the ghoul says, or I can just tell you where the last holdouts of the NCR is, to get Lucy back. And the Legion just goes with it? Why would they not do what the legate just suggested? There's a flashback to present back and forth sequence highlighting how good of a squad mate Cooper was, and it contrasted with Cooper selling out these soldiers, but plot twist, he blows them up by lighting some dynamite with the lighter he has from the pre-war, and the Civil War breaks out full scale. Anyway, the episode closes with the Indian guy trying to kill the ghoul children inside Thaddeus' sweatshop in super evil bad guy fashion, and Maximus saves the day by caving in his skull. Episode absolutely sucked, but I did appreciate the pause and the classical music spam. That compliment does not apply to the rest of the season, however, because they get back to spamming the music in the next episode. Episode 4, The Demon in the Snow. Episode 4 opens with a flashback during the Alaskan front during the war with China, and the T-45 power armor is malfunctioning and cartoonishly sparking. HQ denies Howard's request to turn to safety due to technical problems with the armor, and Howard lies to his buddy and tells him to walk back with his malfunctioning armor alone in the freezing cold of Alaska, and decides it's an even better idea for him to continue on alone. This show makes an even bigger joke of the power armor by having a group of Chinese spray it down with small arms, and Cooper collapse as it gets disintegrated like it's made out of recycled soda cans. Luckily though, before the Chinese shoot him in the face through his open faceplate, a Deathclaw comes and saves him and decides he's not going to kill Cooper because, I don't know, I guess he forgot he was a Deathclaw. I'm assuming they're making Deathclaws blind now, which is why the Deathclaw ignores Cooper, because later on in the present, a Deathclaw does the exact same thing on the strip, which is so stupid. Also, I know the show fans are saying, Deathclaws were made pre-war by the Enclave, so a Deathclaw being here makes total sense. No, it actually doesn't. There's no mind-controlling device on him, and no sign that it's an intelligent Deathclaw either. So the Enclave just released one into Alaska? For what purpose? I'm sure the show won't even give a reason for this, as the scene is clearly just shock value. And another thing to add on top of this, Deathclaws were mutated from chameleons. You know, the reptile that lives in warm and tropical environments. This Deathclaw would have frozen solid faster than the Vault-Tec Ethics Committee. This show is so fucking bad. Maximus sticks Thaddeus into his power armor to act like the Indian guy. More inane jokes. When I see this type of shit in media, I always wonder if people actually laugh at it unironically. But anyway, Maximus and Thaddeus fly back to the Brotherhood undercover. So back to the Vault subplot, and to be honest, to save time, I'll lay out what's going on in it for the entirety of this episode right now because I genuinely hate it and don't want to touch on it again. Basically, the Incest Club is having parties with a bunch of food and water while the water chip is broken and people are supposed to be rationing water. Yes, that's the plot line for the Vault. The Vault is dying of thirst and this clown is sucking up water for their stupid parties. This is the best storyline they could come up with. Lucy experiences the withdrawal effects of drugs like the games and has to take more drugs to make the effects subside. Guys, we know we have butchered the lore and the factions of the original games, but look, it's the addiction system from the game. The Buzz chick sees Thaddeus acting like a retard and instantly knows something is up, yet it goes unnoticed by everyone else in the Brotherhood. With every new episode, the Brotherhood is shit on even more. It was once a technocratic intellectual society or faction obsessed with safeguarding technology, and now it's devolved into a circus of morons. Maximus and his friend are just yelling about how the Indian is dead and that Maximus plans to kill the High Elder on the flight deck around multiple Brotherhood soldiers.
Alright, but now Xander's dead. The Commonwealth.
I have a plan for that. But first I need you to get all the kids and take them somewhere safe.
Why? What are you gonna do?
Kill Quintus.
Back to Norm and the group of bumbling idiots found a truck of Blamco mac and cheese, and were introduced to the most obvious romance partner for Norm, subtle as a super mutant. Okay, so we find out the love interest a week before the war got a job at Vault-Tec. So they were literally just freezing anyone. Some random hobo was next in line to oversee the vault. I guess that explains why the show makes them all fools. But why would they be keeping these people in cryostasis? Then this guy who obviously has insight to the overarching plan assumes control of the group. He says that he fetched lunch for Bud Askins, which I don't know if it's code because he says it very weirdly, as if it is. But if it isn't, why the hell would he know anything about anything? And once again, why would this be a VIP to freeze in cryostasis? I actually forgot about this separate vault subplot, so I'll comment on the whole thing real quick and then move on because it really is just padding. Back to Vault 32, and Steph refuses to give water to Vault 33, and the fat guy overhears them. The cuck finds out Steph is a Canadian because for some reason she kept her Canadian driver's license with her 200 years after the bombs dropped. This leads to the fat guy confronting Steph and she kills him. I think him dying is discovered later on, but I'm going to mention it here anyway. And for now, that covers everything related to the vault for this episode. So all of the kings are now feral ghouls because Bethesda treats West Coast factions like a checklist of things to delete for drama. And apparently there's a new entrance to the strip. Maybe it's a deserted west side, but even then, there's no access to the strip from there. And if the Ghoul and Lucy were coming to the strip from Novak following that path, they would have found themselves in West Side. So I guess they walked all the way around the strip for no reason. Also, the Kings are located in Freeside, so if this isn't Freeside, why the hell are the Kings here? But Lucy opens fire on the Kings because I guess she has gone from the naive little pacifist wholesome chungus to a psycho in the span of 5 seconds. The ghoul recoils when a feral ghoul jumps at him on the car too, despite he himself being a ghoul, and Lucy shoots the king because he's just walking around on the other side of the strip, not in Freeside for God knows what reason. Oh, and did I mention she's using a radium rifle too? Yeah, the gun from the East Coast in Far Harbor. And people still claim this show's purpose isn't to shit on the West Coast games. So back to the Brotherhood again. Thaddeus goes into the mess hall, despite having to stay undercover in the power armor, so why would he be going there when he can't eat? Telling himself out loud that his name is Xander and he belongs here. We switch to Maximus confronting the Elder and tells him that he killed Xander and immediately pulls out his gun to kill his mentor figure. Back to Thaddeus and he's talking to the Mongol woman and the Chud about how they want to betray Quintus. Then it switches to the Israeli woman just walking into the room with cold fusion and she just takes it. No guards, no security, no nothing. Quintus gives Maximus a speech on the righteousness of the Brotherhood and how Maximus is like a son to him. Yet when he finds out Maximus killed Xander for some ghoul children, he spirals like Maximus confessed to kicking puppies. Back to Thaddeus and the robot fucker walks in to exclaim someone stole the relic and the Mongol woman just stabs the Chud for no reason. He was in there with her, yet I guess she assumed he stole it? Or she just wanted to kill him, I guess. This is the Brotherhood of the show, a bunch of undisciplined raiders. And Maximus and Thaddeus run off with the Brotherhood collapsing in the background. We then switch back to Lucy and the Ghoul and see Gamora, which confirms this is the entrance through Freeside, yet the Ghoul says it's not, and the entrance they go through later leads to the new show version of Freeside. The Ultralux is in the wrong spot as well. The layout is absolutely nothing like the game at all, and there are cars on the strip despite there never being any in the game. And why would they be moving destroyed, dilapidated cars onto the strip post-war? But anyway, they find out Fallout 4 Deathclaws are infesting the strip, and for some reason a Deathclaw is inside of Gamora, yet the doors aren't ripped off. So he has just been using the doors like a human, I guess, and waited for Lucy and the Ghoul to arrive to Aura Farm. Also, they're making all the Deathclaws blind like I thought, because spoiler alert, in the beginning of the next episode, he doesn't see Lucy and the Ghoul when standing right above them. And like that, the episode ends with Lucy saying her quirky which at this point feels less like character dialogue and more like the writers daring the audience to take anything seriously. Another shitty episode, probably the worst so far from the season.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, consider liking and subscribing because it helps out the channel a lot. I also have memberships now. If you want to become a member for $2 a month, then do so. Above all else, I'm just glad you watched the video, and remember, don't you dare go hollow.